P. Diddy story. You see, excuse me. You see where we go with this. Now, there's a lot of channels covered this. Obviously, in the beginning, when his house was being raided, then he finally got arrested. Didn't give him bail. The terrible video came out. Him and Cassie in the hotel. From what I understand, that they haven't prosecuted him or charged him with that, because the statutory, whatever they call it, to do with the duration between something happening and when you press charges, the length of time run out. Excuse me, a little bit of brain fog. Let's just get to it anyway, because I saw something on the Piers Morgan show the other day, and it really got me thinking.
You got money, you got influence.
Charging Diddy with those in the historical context is almost laughable. This takes wokeism.
It's not laughable. I'm going to tell you that right now.
I
know for a fact it's not laughable.
You got that much money,
exactly.
and you got that much street credit. You can get people killed.
Kanye West is...
Trust me on this one. I'm taking to like one party or the other. There's information that his defense, well, not necessarily his defense lawyer, but defense lawyers who've dealt side of the whole story.
Just seemingly out of control.
I think he's suffering partially from mental illness, but he's also insanely ignorant.
We meet at last.
I'm so excited. Let me take my heels off.
Yeah, so they go into some other stories like Kanye and Black China. I'm going to focus on the Diddy discussion.
We about to get nitty gritty. Hold on, let me get myself comfortable.
Diddy's legal defense was dealt a fresh blow earlier this week as one of his lawyers sensationally resigned. Anthony Ricco said he provided high levels of legal representation, but that under no circumstances could he continue. Elsewhere in the world of disgraced hip-hop stars, Kanye West posted a video ranting about Barstool SportsCenter Dave Portnoy while wearing a sweater emblazoned with a massive swastika. Kanye's latest unhinged intervention has reignited the row about his right to free speech and unfettered access to X. Well, joining me to discuss all this is the star of The Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, the former defence attorney for Suge Knight, Matthew Fletcher, the rapper, producer and commentator Lord Jamar, and the legendary criminal defence lawyer Mark Garagos. Welcome to all of you. Mark, great to see you back on Uncensored. I've not talked to you, I don't think, about the whole Diddy case. How significant is it that one of his defence attorneys, high profile, Anthony Ricco, has quit and made it pretty clear, I think, in the wording of his resignation from the team and the case, that he obviously, I imagine, has issues with Diddy himself?
Well, in full disclosure, I've represented Sean off and on for many years, and my daughter is still the lead lawyer for Diddy. So from a father's perspective, I don't think it makes one whit of difference, frankly. Diddy knows what he's doing. I don't think that Tony was a lead lawyer in the case. Mark Agnifilo is the lead lawyer, who's very accomplished. I understand that anything Diddy related tends to get a lot of clicks, but this, to me, is no more than just a speed bump.
So we shouldn't be reading into it anything more sinister, because it just seemed unusual for, in such a high-profile case, for one of the team to publicly resign like this.
You're right. I don't think that, in fact, I would venture to say that there's...
This bit is good, because if you listen to what he's got to say, he debunks that side of it, because this case is, in a big way, being tried in the media, just kind of like what happened to Donald Trump. And the way Donald Trump's cases have resolved, obviously he became president and everything changes at that point. And a lot of how things were being done during the Biden administration, a lot of how things were being done that has now come to the surface, it kind of makes you think if they can do of the US, United States maker in that way, people make careers off of big cases, etc., etc. You're going to hear about something similar to what they did with Trump. The fact that they found an obscure law that hasn't been used for 100 years or rarely ever, and they built a case around it. And from what I understand, a similar thing was done with this Diddy case. Likeable or anything like that. There's another way to look at this, and it does seem like his card was marked, and maybe and certain DAs see an opportunity to really make their careers on this case. I just think there's a lot of balance that gets brought into the frame when you listen to what these two celebrity lawyers got to say, and then you got the street guys who give you another perspective. It gives you a little bit more information than just the headline stories all coming out on one side. So without no further ado, let's continue.
Other than what often happens with these cases, I was thinking back many years ago to Michael Jackson after I saw this, and there were lawyer changes and shuffling of the deck. It happens often in high-profile cases. I mean, there's always going to be some lawyers coming and going. Inevitably, I've seen it in every single case I've ever handled.
That I can believe.
I will tell you that I don't think it means much of anything at all in this case. Sean is, by all accounts, ready, willing, and able to go on May 5th, and I expect that you and I will be back talking about it.
What is your overview of where he is in terms of criminal liability here, in terms of what may happen to him and the weight of the case? Because we know that when the feds come, success rate.
Well, that's absolutely true. I tell clients when they come into my office, the federal conviction rate is in the high 90s.
See, this is what got me rethinking a few things here. Bearing in mind that it was the same feds that raided Mar-a-Lago, went through the ex-president's wife's, literally where she keeps her, stuff. And the way they turned the whole thing into some kind of cinematic, like the January the 6th production, when they could have just got on with it. It kind of makes you think, who's instructing the people who are dealing with these cases to have to go at it in that type of way?
So understand, there aren't that many lawyers walking around who've heard the words "not guilty" in a federal courtroom. So I've been fortunate to have that, as has my daughter and both Mark Agnifilo. I will tell you, this is my take on this case. This case has been, the media has so run with this idea that we have A-list celebrities, that we've got sex tapes. The tapes are about to drop. The sex tapes are involved, whether it's, and I don't even want to kind of push forward.
Oh, it sounds really juicy, doesn't it? Let's see where it goes.
The kind of, but I remember watching a TV show, Piers, back in September, where a lawyer said that there were shopping tapes around, and that this tape involved a A-list celebrity and blah, blah.
Money, money, money.
Every public filing in that case has led me to one conclusion and one conclusion only, that these are private tapes in two other females and another willing participant. There's, as far as I can tell, there are no tapes that involve so-called A-list celebrities. In fact, there's nobody else on these tapes except two other consenting adults. They weren't done surreptitiously. They weren't done covertly. And basically, the government's case comes down to, did victim, added two victims, but it appears that it's just three, if you believe the defense, three ex-girlfriends. And that has morphed into now saying bad likes of which is Abercrombie and Fitch. I don't see it. I haven't seen anything that gives me any indication that that is the case.
Matthew, I saw you nodding there.
Yes.
You were a criminal trial consultant. You represented, like I said, Suge Knight. With over 100 jury trials you were involved in, doing a lot of murder cases, you secured a lot of not guilty verdicts. Now, you said an interesting thing. You said that you're no fan of Diddy, but you still think this case might not be a very strong one. Explain that.
I agree with Mark 1,000,000%. This is a joke. This case is blown up into something that from nothing. When you have, first of all, a number 5 or 6 lawyer getting off a case means nothing. He's mad he didn't get enough camera time. He's mad he thinks he wants more money. It means nothing about the case. In all likelihood, he wasn't even particularly privy to all the comings and goings that were going on with the case. I'd be very surprised. Mark Garagos doesn't sit down and have conversation with 4 and 5 lawyers at the bottom, and it's nothing intentional. It's just the practical reality. In Sean and Combs' cases, this guy is a unique individual, but he's not dumb. He's arrogant. He's obnoxious. He was afraid of doing anything for himself, afraid of going to jail, which I understand. I get it. But this is the case where here's a crazy thought. There are some people in Hollywood who have different sex lives than people in mid-America. There's like markets and referred to. I've talked to people about these videos. One, there's no baby oil. 2, there's no children. 3, there's no force, no coercion, no duress. These are sex workers. He's
2 consenting adults. It might be a little bit out of the ordinary for most people and their bedroom lives. Guy's a celebrity. Hollywood. Some things are done differently there. Consenting adults and a working third party by the sound of it. You'll see what he says.
A voyeur. He liked to watches his significant others have sex. There's just almost nothing to this case. You have a very ambitious AUSA who doesn't have a lot of experience trying cases. AUSAs in general, they try serious cases, and never get me wrong, they don't do a lot of trials. And when you do a lot of trials, you know what's a strong case, you know what's a weak case, you can sense, you can figure out. This is nothing.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. Our sponsors mean we can bring it to you.
So that kind of reminds
in
me
the hotel
of
corridor.
the woman who went after Donald Trump and the DA who campaigned that, they were going to use their time to go after Trump, almost like bagging scalps. And it makes you think, if they can do that to him, can they not do that to another celebrity?
Where he beats up his girlfriend at the time, really appallingly. And he does that with impunity. Not.
Trust me, I'm not saying the guy is innocent of every and anything. It's just I'm aware that they can build these cases and find charges from the most dustiest, cobweb, darkest corners and somehow tie it to the accused.
Not seeming to care that there may be CCTV footage. That showed a guy who's capable of horrific violence against his own girlfriend. And at that point, my thinking about all the allegations was, well, yeah, I reckon he's probably capable of pretty much anything. Any man that could do that to a woman in a hotel corridor is not a nice person. And they're perfectly capable of criminal acts, because that was one of them.
And he should be charged with being not a nice person. He should be charged. He should be charged with domestic violence. He should be charged with battery. He should be charged with anything. He arguably could be charged with assault with a deadly weapon, hands or feet. That has nothing to do with sex trafficking. It has nothing to do with the White Slave Trade Act. It has nothing to do with human trafficking. Those are the charging Diddy with those in the historical context is almost laughable. This takes wokeism to a new level in the law. The Mann Act and the White Slave Trade Act was not designed to be applied to a movie producer, a movie director, a recording artist bringing in someone to have sex with his wife or his girlfriend while he watched. He beat her like a dog, and he should go to prison for that. Unfortunately, he was never charged, and the same people in New York who want to charge everyone else, or L.A., didn't charge him for a simple corporal punishment to a spouse or cohabitant. That's what it is, but two things can be true at the same time. That is a crime, without doubt. It is not sex trafficking, without a doubt. It is an abuse of a woman, without a doubt. It is cowardly. It is uncool. It is all of those things. It is not sex trafficking by any stretch of the imagination. You can never find...
Okay, no, I hear you. Let me bring in Brandon Tatum. You're listening patiently to this. So it's all wokeism.
Well, I think you have a perspective from lawyers, which I understand why they would have a very methodical perspective of what is the law, what does the evidence show. But then you also have the reality of it. P. Diddy and some of these other dudes are gangsters. They literally have people in fear. I honestly believe if anybody were to turn on them, trade on them, lie on them, you could get killed in the streets. So they have this gangster lifestyle that's more real than what can be presented in the court of law. And I guarantee you there may be a lot more.
See, I get some of what Brandon Tate is saying. And I watch, I've seen this video, and the conclusion I ended up being led to is quite different from what I was thinking a month or so ago when it was all kicking off. Brandon Tate, Lord Jamar, I've checked them out before. Lord Jamar, mostly from the old DJ Bad one-to-ones. And Brandon Tate, I watch his shows quite frequently. And yeah, I kind of vibe with both of them, and they're fairly balanced in most debates. The other two guys I'm not that familiar with, although when you hear them talk about the people they've represented, then yeah, they're fairly out there in mainstream. Thing is though, on this one, I'm not fully with what Brandon Tate is professing, or some of what Lord Jamar has to say, although I get where they're both coming from as people who've come up in the, in the hood, so to speak, in those communities where, things are done on the basis of a different set of rules. On this one, I'm kind of leaning towards the lawyers.
More evidence and people who would be.
And also, let me know in the comments.
Forthcoming, but they don't want to end up getting killed. Suge Knight was a gangster. Snoop Dogg was a gangster. All of these rappers, they live a very hard life, and they got people around them that'll do dirty business if they have to get to it. So I do understand that as a former law enforcement officer, you can only go with what the evidence shows, and you can only go with what can be presented in the court of law, what's admissible in the court of law. However, on the other flip side of it, people get away with stuff all the time because they know how to move and shake. P. Diddy is not dumb. He's savvy. He got money. He got influence. He got lawyers. They're going to get him in the best position humanly possible, but that does not mean that he's not potentially responsible for these things. And it was evident with him beating up Cassidy and probably beating up other women like that this dude he's very capable of doing all the things he's accused of.
Yeah, I mean, Lord Jamar, we've talked a lot about this case since it first blew up. I've got to say, it's the first time I've had people be quite so defensive, is probably the wrong word, but so kind of prepared to say this might be massively overblown. And they both happen to be top criminal lawyers, which is significant, I think.
Well, again, as lawyers, I understand their perspective. And I agree that on a lot of cases, lawyers do get fired and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, they do.
The thing that was telling to me by this particular lawyer's resignation is when he stated, by no circumstances can I work on the case. That
Whoa.
Little caveat right there made
Just
me
to break it
feel
up
like
a little bit.
he may have been, privy to some sort of information that made him say, you know what, I cannot defend a monster like this. I don't know. I'm just saying that's a possibility. It could be just a regular changing of the guard, like these gentlemen said. But when I first heard it, and when he said that particular, under no circumstances, it just made me think, well, why did he feel that? Did he have some sort of, conscious, thing of change of heart,
That's
once
imagination.
finding something out? I don't know. I think it's worth asking, though.
It is.
And my response to that would be, I get it, because that's, obviously you hear that and you say, oh, he must have discovered something. If that was the case, and I don't see anything to support that. If that was the case, the last thing the lawyer can do is what was done. You can't suggest,
Exactly.
you've got a duty to your ex-client. Your duty to your ex-client survives even after death. So even if you want off the case, you can't disparage or suggest or do anything.
At this stage or juncture, I just want to take a moment to have a little word from our video sponsors, Small Debts. If you happen to be based in the UK, sometimes your rent deposit when you change apartment and move isn't paid to you in as timely a fashion as you'd like. You do work for people sometimes. I do gigs and events, and job's done. People start paying you. There's other scenarios you can end up with. Lots of scammers online with the online purchases. Small Debts, they're in your corner. If you're at your wit's end trying to get your money back, look them up. They can help you out. Check this out.
You've been unfairly charged or conned by a company? At Small Debts, no company is too big and no debt too small. Small Debts is here to help.
As simple as that. Their info's in the description. Click the link.
So I think I get the reaction. That makes sense, but I can tell you that no self-respecting lawyer is going to get off a case because he says I can't deal with the evidence. I've defended cases. Matt has defended cases where the clients, you may not want to bring the clients home for Thanksgiving dinner, but that's no justification for saw something in the evidence, and that's why you're here.
American homeowners are.
So,
in the public
there's more
filings.
to
The public
consider.
filings are, and unfortunately in this case, nobody seems to pay attention to them, because the public filings, the defense keeps suggesting.
And that's the point as well. Most of the details to do with the case, legally and by law, is available, as he mentioned, public filings for people to get hold of and take a look at themselves. Although most of us get our information from the media, so it's already been filtered through and selected, and the narrative's already been chosen. So that's how we reach a lot of these conclusions. When you hear from somebody who's actually looked at the spread, length, and breadth of the information, gives you another way of looking at it. Just slightly.
That there's only 3 people here. All 3 were ex-girlfriends, that there was no trafficking. The latest one that Matt just referred to was a challenge to the Mann Act. And the challenge to the Mann Act is they actually had to change the name of the act that they're charging him with years ago from the white slavery.
Now, this is what I'm talking about.
You've been.
How many of you have heard of the White Slavery Act? How far back did they go to dig up this law or set of charges and revamp it and bring it into this case? If it's so cut and dry with the full weight of the feds, what's actually going on here?
Act to the Mann Act. The defense says no black man has ever been charged in this particular circumstance until Diddy. Are you telling me in the history of our country, Diddy's the first guy who gets charged with an act that's been around for God knows how long, number one? Number two, are you also
Look, it's not a matter of having love for the accused or anything like that. It smells very much of him getting the Donald Trump treatment.
telling me that it's 3 ex-girlfriends and that this guy, and I don't necessarily disagree that that rappers have unsavory reputations, but you can't, to Matt's point and to Tate's point, you can't convict somebody. We have specific code sections in the criminal law, 404 in federal. You don't just do a character assassination and then convict the person. You don't convict them because they're bad people. You don't convict them because I don't like them because they live a thug lifestyle, which, by the way, I didn't even know I was able to use thug anymore. I thought that was, speaking of wokeism, I thought thug was taken off the table. But the fact is, we do not convict people in America based on them being bad actors. We convict them based on bad acts. That was Cassie's involvement in that hotel hallway, a bad act? Absolutely. But as Matt says, the statute ran on that.
Okay,
That's the word.
let's just pivot.
And the other thing about this, real
The word that escaped me earlier. Statute of limitations.
quick, on this issue that the lawyer says, it's a term of art. It's like in law when you say we've had irreconcilable differences in a divorce. People say, well, that must mean he beat her. That must mean she beat him or was cheating. It doesn't mean it's a term of art. This lawyer has to make specific showings to the federal judge to be allowed off the case. And one of the ways you do that is that we've broken up and we can't get back together. And all he was saying is we've broken up and we can't get back together. In court, we often call it, we're waiting for Mr. Green to arrive, or Mr. Cash hasn't arrived. Everyone understands what the term of art means. And in this case, it means I'm not getting along with this dude because I want to be the big dog or the top dog, or I'm not getting paid enough money. It's nothing, there's nothing below.
I mean, these are huge cases. If you take the person in the dock, is paying for all of these lawyer fees, to the side for the moment, there's a lot going on here. There's careers being made, a lot of money being made, and people's futures being cast in stone before you get to what the accused is up against. If the verdict goes one way or the other, it's quite a big deal.
That or should be read into it at all. Second of all, this concept that P. Diddy could have someone killed is laughable. I mean, he couldn't save his own bodyguard. I mean, there's just, these stories are plentiful about all of the.
It's not laughable. I'm gonna let you know right now that I'm from the street. I grew up around this dude. It's not laughable. I'm gonna tell you that right now. So let's pump the brakes a little bit.
If you got
I
money,
know for a fact it's not laughable.
That much money,
exactly.
and you got that much street credit, you can get people killed. And the good thing about it is for them is that you can get people killed and nobody ever know. Just like you can get Shine to go to prison for you. Like he literally got a guy to shoot him up and went to jail for Diddy. Shine didn't snitch. So you got guys that'll do the crime for you and they'll do the time for you if you powerful enough like Diddy. You got enough money, you can represent them in court. You can get them out. I mean, I would argue that you probably know a little bit.
Yeah, as I remember, Diddy was acquitted of the very case where he was convicted. So I don't know how you transmogrify that into that he did the time for Diddy. Diddy was on trial with that case. Ben Brofman and Johnny Cobb. That was Johnny's last criminal case that he tried with Diddy, 25 years ago?
Yeah, and I bet you Diddy didn't have any credible witnesses that would testify against him either. So.
Diddy had his own chauffeur. His own chauffeur testified against him. His own chauffeur in New York testified against him and testified specifically that Diddy tried to bribe him. He had receipts, and he wasn't killed. He wasn't attacked.
I also got thinking after watching some of these back and forths that sometimes just because we want to believe something, it doesn't mean it's necessarily true.
Or anything else. This wokeism, and I'm going to carry this 1 second. this idea that you can say, well, that's a black guy and he's a rapper and he can get you killed, that's all made up. Tell me the name of one person who's been hit or killed at the direction of a rapper. One name.
Lord Jamar.
You won't be able to. You're not going to tell that if you had a track record, then it won't be effective. These people get people killed all the time.
Let me get Lord Jamar to answer that question.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here with a laundry list of names. I'm just letting you know that it's absolutely possible. I believe it's absolutely been done in the history of not just rap, just of powerful men, powerful people in all different kinds of industry have used their power to kill people when they feel it's necessary. And the smart ones don't get caught.
Listen, it almost happened to Donald Trump. If he turned the other way, who knows?
Smart ones have lawyers and stuff saying, oh, they would never do that. Like the smart ones cover their tracks, but don't act like it's not within the realm of possibility. This is not some sort of conspiracy theory that people are pulling out their ass. Like, this is real shit. Like, I'm telling you, coming from New York and all of that type of stuff, I know about street culture, and I know this is absolutely within his power, and we're just going to leave it at that.
All right, Matthew, I'm surprised. Hang on. I'm surprised, Matthew, to hear you give this kind of blanket, no rappers have ever killed anyone. I mean, you can't honestly believe that.
You can't.
Well, maybe not in New York. I can tell you there's no one in California who's represented more African Americans and Hispanics and rappers than I have. It's not close. It's not close. And I'm not saying that that's an impossibility, but literally you can't find a successful conviction of a rapper.
Just saying he's got credentials.
Who was predominantly a rapper for committing any crime. Shine is a perfect example.
How about my brother Chi-Ali? How many years he got for murdering someone? Look up a guy named Chi-Ali. He was a rapper that ended up killing his girlfriend's brother for doing some wildness. There's an example.
Well,
and he served
I'll give you an example of since there was a reference made to the gang culture. Killing someone in a personal battle is not considered gang related in any way. You can't use the gang to enforce rules. He didn't say
you're now moving the goalposts. We didn't say the killing has to be gang related. We're saying rappers that may have killed people.
He said he killed his girlfriend. Okay.
If you ever listen to drill rap, I think everybody on the panel know what drill rap is, right?
Absolutely.
We know what drill rapping is. These rappers, literally, some of them have gone to jail. Some of them have been killed on live stream. These dudes order hits. They got gangsters that will do business for them. It's crazy to think that. I mean,
and then they rap about it afterwards.
Maybe you will never see it because they're good at it. But people order hits.
I'll just cut in at this point because what Officer Tatum is bringing up, we're not going to run it into the Kanye discussion that comes after this debate. Although some of what they bring up, and you can look up the original Piers Morgan video, watch the whole thing. Some of what they bring up, Lord Jamar, I think it is, makes an interesting point, and this is that Kanye, with all his, strangeness and kind of altered state and different things he's been doing, Lord Jamar pointed to the fact that, which links back to rappers, drill rap, etc., that he could be making the point to say that the music industry, the fact that they promote back and allow this stuff to go in, because some of this stuff that's going on record, representing what's going on street, and people's lives being, people being unalived, etc., it's wrapped up in the music industry, and particularly the rap and black community part of it. So, yeah, I don't know if that's point blank what Kanye is trying to say. It just kind of gave another take on the whole thing. Anyway, we'll continue on.
All the time, people do stuff to avenge their big dogs all the time. I don't know how that's even mentioned on this live stream or this show, that rappers ain't getting people killed. Rappers are killing
Little
people
Dirk
themselves.
is in trouble right now for ordering a hit, actually. Little Dirk.
But you know who's not in trouble? You know who's not in trouble for it? It's P. Diddy.
Right.
P. Diddy.
Let me ask Mark.
There's not a shred of evidence.
Okay, so do you think
We're just
Matthew?
we're saying it's possible, though.
Hang
We're
on,
saying
Matthew.
he's capable.
Well, Matthew, do you think
Sure,
in that case,
it's
do
possible.
you think he's going to walk P. Diddy?
I'm sure. He's got a very, very good defense team, and in this case, to any experienced, and they're very experienced. It's not. This is not a real case. I
Honestly, I'll admit, I started to think that this thing was cut and dry until a couple of days ago when I listened to this debate, and it really kind of, on the legal side, it opens up different perspectives.
I wish they would get away from saying he's a spectacular human being and just deal with the facts and say him and his wife were swingers, or he was in a relationship that was open and they like to do these certain things. Keep it to that. When you start saying he's a wonderful human being, you open yourself up, or the defense opens himself up for arguments to say, no, he's really a violent person and he's involved in this culture and that culture, when you don't need it, because there's no evidence that shows that this guy, you can't convict someone of paying commercial sex workers for committing commercial sex work.
Okay.
I think he's walking. He should.
Oh, no, that's the part that I didn't realize, that it didn't get to me in the media, that the other party, and they're not even talking about parties now, the other party that was involved was a sex worker, and himself and his partner. So all of this wildness of big orgies and videos are going to be surfacing of unnamed celebrities and this, that, and the other. It's starting to sound like a lot of hype.
Can I add one thing? Can I add
I mean,
one thing?
is that
We
legal,
already
though?
talked about.
Yeah, Brandon.
We already talked about federal. Real quick, we already talked about federal conviction rates. I have family members that went down on federal charges. The federal government don't just take lightly the investigations that they do. They do it over a course of time. They have a bunch of evidence against you. That's why their conviction rates are so good. And I think that for them to get Diddy, they don't have to do this. They wouldn't pursue this if they didn't have something, in my opinion. So for them to get Diddy on this, I think they have some substance there. Now, can he walk? That's the beauty of defense attorneys. That's the beauty of people being able to put together a good argument that can get you off on technicalities, on the fact that you can impeach witnesses. I mean, you go down the list. That's why they pay these defense attorneys so much money, because, as you can see, you have high-profile people that may have done the crime, but they get off.
Look, let's be clear.
That's the way our justice system works.
Let's be clear. When someone like O.J. Simpson can get cleared, then anything can happen. So let me
just remember. Just
also-
remember.
hang on, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just remember.
There's never going to be a time when they're not going to be referencing OJ system. I think that one is set in stone in celebrity history now, and legal side of things.
Before we jump on this bandwagon that they must have.
This morning on Take It Off Today, an incredible transformation on TikTok. Her weight loss video went viral with.
Had this, they must have had that. There is a fight currently going on in the Southern District, and the DOJ, led by Emile Bove and Pam Bondi, have already said they've shown the website for the then U.S. attorney, a guy by the name of Damian Williams. He was bragging about the fact that he had indicted on his way out the door, basically. He had indicted both Eric Adams and P. Diddy, a rapper and a mayor. And that was one of the reasons they thought that didn't look good. The DOJ, it wasn't me, it wasn't the defense lawyer, it was the Department of Justice. They're fighting, trying to dismiss Eric Adams. Eric Adams and Diddy were both indicted by that U.S. attorney on his way out the door. He's no longer there. So let's hold on a little bit. And by the way, as to ordering people to get killed, as I sit here in Los Angeles today, and I appreciate it, guys, I may not run in the same circles. My only two clients that are accused right now of ordering a hit are both females who are accused of ordering hits on their ex-husbands. So let's get a little. Let's make sure we call it like we see them. They're the only high-profile hit crimes.
And they're sloppy. They're not good at it as men.
That's why you have to defend them. So.
Well, I've done 2 series of interviewing women killers called Killer Women, so I can attest they can actually be very good at killing people. Mark, let me just ask you quickly.
And let's be fair about one thing. When we're talking about this prowess of the federal government in identifying actual criminals, I could remember 3 years ago having this conversation, and I said, I'm perfectly willing to accept that the President of the United States is working hand in hand with the Russians if he would just give me one witness who says it.
Yeah.
And we had a years-long prosecution with millions and millions of dollars, and I'm still waiting to hear the name of one single witness, participant who said Donald Trump did anything with the Russians.
Crazy.
And we don't hear about it anymore.
No.
And as I said then, I'll say it now. When you can come after him, you can come after anyone you want.
Exactly what I was saying.
And so let's not mistake, just because it's the federal government was saying
the Russia
must
collusion.
be guilty.
Yeah, look, the Russia collusion thing was bullshit before, during, and after, and remains total bullshit for the reasons you just said. Before we finish, I want to bring in Mark again quickly. Kanye West is just seemingly out of control. I want to play his latest video, now deleted obviously, but this was him talking to Dave Portnoy, in which he said this.
So, okay, I'm going to wrap it up because this goes into a whole nother debate. And I just found out about this latest Kanye video. These guys really break it down. Lord Jamar, as a matter of fact, Lord Jamar, and he shines some light. So if you got a moment, check it out. For now, I'd just like to say thank you for spending some time here at CornerSpeak with myself. Owen, you ready? Catch up with you again soon. Be good, be safe, be creative. Comments, please leave them, and like and subscribe to the channel if you can. We out.